Hi, I'm Bob Roth, Managing Partner and Co-Founder of Cypress Home Care Solutions. Since 1994, we've been helping older adults in the Phoenix community age gracefully and safely in the place they call home. Since 2014, I've been bringing you Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, a show dedicated to helping you live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Health Futures, and today's a special day for me because I have a dear friend of mine that I've been dying to get here into the studio with me. And here today with me is Dave Totaro. Dave, welcome to Health Futures. It's so exciting to have you here.
Bob, it's an honor to be here. I've wanted to be on this program for I don't know how long, ever since you started, and it's great that our paths have crossed once again.
Well, I love that. And, you know, I set a theme for our show here today. So my theme is living many lives, relationships, and the power of timing. And I think all of those things really fit you very well. So today's conversation is going to be about you, Dave. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
I would add in, first of all, a little luck in that.
And timing and luck?
Yes.
Definitely a little timing and luck. But, you know, you and I have known each other for about 15 years when we did our tour duties over at NAC, the National Association of Home Care and Hospice. And you were on the board and I was on the private duty affiliate board. And, you know, there was just something about you that was just magnetic and really attracted me to you. And you're one of those people that, you know, have that gift, that skill. And, you know, you've lived in different cities, you've worked in different industries, and you've had many different chapters in your lives. And one of the things that appeals to you, is that both of us have a really strong marketing background. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But, you know, you spent many years over at BAYADA, and that's where we got a chance to know one another. And you're now, you know, transitioning over to Liberty Partners Group, and there's so many great stories. You know, there's a circle story involving the founder of BAYADA, Mark BAYADA, and how you guys came together. There's a chapter in Las Vegas, and I definitely want to talk about that. And then there's a lifeline bond with an individual that happens to be an identical twin of yours. So I want to really get into that. So this isn't a resume conversation. This is about, you know, really what you have done in your lifetime. And really, I get the sense, and we're going to walk away from here today, that you're not done yet. You got a lot more left to do. So let's get things started. And, you know, for me, you know, I would love to have you really talk about the beginnings. You know, I mentioned in the opening here that you have a twin, and I really would love for you to talk about where you're from and, you know, tell me, you know, your story about where you went to school and where you grew up and really the beginnings of Dave Totaro.
Well, Bob, I do have an identical twin brother who I am still very close to, but like many twins, we've had periods where we were angry with each other. We didn't talk to each other. And literally, I would sometimes go, and you're going to be surprised about this, maybe a couple years without talking because
Wow.
we were very competitive as twins. And unfortunately, my mother particularly made us competitive, and she did it because she didn't want to err on the side of complimenting one twin for something without the other one feeling bad. Mm-hmm. So if I did something that was that achieved something, she would kind of almost minimize that and make up for it because my twin didn't, and vice versa. But we remain close. We still live within, I'd say about 30 minutes of each other, and we
Nice.
still try to get together for dinner every other month or something like that.
And I do, by the way, I love seeing the pictures because, you know, even in your golden years, if you would, you guys are identical twins.
And we still very much are.
You wear the glasses the same, you dress the same, and you part your hair the same. I mean, you do everything the same.
What we were in Longwood Gardens which is outside of Philadelphia last year for a Christmas outing, and we happened to arrive dressed in black, which is not an uncommon way for people dressed today. And we were standing there together looking at one of the Christmas decorations, big tree, and I turned around, and there were about 20 people taking our photos because we were the old, as one person said, "You're the oldest twins that we've ever seen."
I love it. So where'd you grow up?
Grew up outside of Philadelphia in a little suburb called Upper Darby, Drexel Hill, actually the community.
Yeah.
We went through high school together, and then we separated and went to different colleges. He went to Ursinus College outside of Philadelphia, and I went to Dickinson College in the middle of Pennsylvania. He became a lawyer. He's a partner, just recently retired as a partner with one of the major firms in Montgomery County in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I went on, got an MBA in marketing from the Wharton School in University of Pennsylvania.
Just a small school, Wharton School. Just so our audience knows, that's University of Pennsylvania, Ivy League. So, yes, nicely done.
And then I moved to New York. And then this is where we're identical twins, but in many ways we have our own lives.
Right.
I have.
Well, he went over to the deep side. You said he became a lawyer.
He went over to the deep side.
So he did.
Yes,
he went over to the other side.
Well, he became a very prominent.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Attorney in adoption law, having made adoptions for well over 3,000 people.
Wow.
And I would go around the country and run into people who thought I was him, and would approach me and thank me for an adoption that he had done. And I would insist that it wasn't me, and they would not believe me.
Well, I got to say, this is where you guys are connected, because the profession that he chose is really making an impact on people's lives. I mean, you think about it, the empathy he must have and fighting and putting together these adoption programs for these families that are wanting to have a baby. Amazing.
Yeah.
I got to meet this guy one day. What's his first name?
Sam.
Sam
and Dave.
Sam and Dave.
You remember the group back in the 60s, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah, there was actually
very few of us remember that group.
There was actually a PR firm here in town called the Sam and David PR. Seriously, wow.
So I moved into New York, and I then moved literally 27 times in the last, say, 25 years, and because I kept moving for different roles, and I didn't make relocation and a boulder in my way. I wanted to make sure that I would take advantage of any opportunity. Whereas he has never moved more than maybe 15 miles from where we grew up. And that is a big difference between the two of us.
That is a really big difference. Tell me about your experience in marketing. So you went to New York to really get involved in marketing, right?
Right. I had a number of chief marketing officer roles with financial institutions, but the one I think I enjoyed the most was when I became the first chief marketing officer for Caesars Entertainment, the parent company of Caesar's Palace and all of its properties worldwide.
You were like the main marketing guy.
Yes, and my office was on the second floor overlooking the pools at Caesar's Palace.
How long did you do that for?
For about 6 years.
Wow.
And I worked on I brought Celine Dion to the Strip.
I remember
We built the Coliseum, built the Paris Hotel. So it was a really a wonderful experience. I had just gotten married to Amanda, my wife.
Yes.
And we moved out there. The wonderful thing about working for Caesars, because it's an iconic brand, and all the other casinos really wanted our players to visit their casinos. I would be invited to every single launch of a venue, just because they wanted us to get to be comfortable with that venue, and then take our big players to.
So
those
this
casinos.
was like in the early 2000s, right? We're not in the 90s. We're like before 2010.
No, that was still. It was 1998 to 2003.
Okay, 2003.
Yeah.
And for those that know Vegas, it was booming. So new stuff was popping up all over the place.
Right. That's where I learned very much so that, in today's environment, if you build it, they will come.
If you build it, they will come. No, I love that. I really do. And watching some of these hotels and resorts go down, I was kind of saddened to see the Desert Inn, no longer be.
Yeah.
Just because it was just a really, it was more of a neighborly type casino hotel. It wasn't one of these massive hotels. And I had a golf course there too that I used to play. So there was a life before that, Dave. Avon, I think you worked for, right?
I worked for Avon Products. Before that, that's where I actually met my future mentor and boss, Mark BAYADA.
Over at Avon.
At Avon.
Wow,
Right.
I
Well, I didn't meet
that.
him there, but we worked together. That was our first jobs. It was because of Mark, though, that I was able to get an interview there and then got a job there.
Well, you know what, I think it's a great opportunity to talk about Mark BAYADA. And you met him before Avon, and your story is an amazing story. So I would love for you to really talk about the beginnings of your relationship with him, because you talk about someone that's iconic. Mark BAYADA is incredibly iconic. Built an organization, I believe it started in 1975. And here it is 51 years later, really making differences in lives, changing lives. And love for you to talk about that relationship, how that started. And then, you worked together at Avon, and then here you are full circle, having worked with him for a long time.
I met Mark well before he started RN Healthcare. But
RN, just so everyone understands, that's what it was. The name of the company was when I first started.
Exactly.
RN, Nurse.
RN
Healthcare.
Home Care.
Yeah.
It was at the height of the Vietnam War. And at that time, almost everyone our age was being drafted into the military. And we separately, we didn't know each other. We lived in separate towns. I was living in a suburb of Philadelphia. He was living in a suburb of New Jersey. We joined the Army Reserve at the same time, different Army Reserve units. But we were asked to report to Fort Knox, Kentucky, apparently on the same day. And so we did. We arrived at the airport in Louisville. We were put on a bus. We still had never met each other. I didn't even know he was on that bus. But when we got off the bus, you're randomly given numbers, and you stand in line for basically 2 days. With the same
line for 2 days.
You're getting your head shaved. You're getting your shots. You're getting your uniform and all the equipment you need. As it randomly happened, I got number 18 and he got number 19. And to me, that is really something that I always look back upon, because if I had gotten number 17 or number 12, I may never have met him. Mm-hmm. But because we were arriving for the start of basic training, and like any other recruit, you are as nervous as hell.
How old were you then?
20.
You were 20 years old.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so I turned to him and he turned to me and we started talking. Now, one of the things that we had discovered was we were both getting graduate degrees. I was at Wharton, he was at Rutgers, and we were both getting our degrees in marketing, MBAs. And so we had a lot in common. But one of the things that attracted me about him is that he already knew in many ways what he wanted to do. He wanted to have his own business. I, on the other hand, just wanted to get that degree and figure it out as I went along. But we became very close friends during both basic and AIT. We were trained as tank commanders. We went through basic together. We did all, when you had to pair up together, we always paired with each other. We did the gas chamber together. We did, almost every exercise you needed to do together. But it taught me, and then I should say that when we left after we were done, we went back to our hometowns, and because we were with the Army Reserve, we had to commit for 6 years of training every month, once a month, and then 2 weeks every year for 6 years. And we made a point to try to get into the same reserve unit so we can continue to, enjoy ourselves with each other,
right?
Have some fun. But it really made me realize the importance of when you don't miss out on any type opportunity when you meet someone. Continue that relationship, and how much luck contributes to the success of your life. And I go back and think, my whole life today would be very different if I had turned to number 17 and struck up a conversation with him versus Mark.
Number 19.
Right.
Oh, that's impressive. I really love how you guys fostered this relationship and built this relationship. So
a lot of what we do today at BAYADA and the core values that were established at the company were really almost started together when we first met each other, when we had to do the gas chamber drill together, where they take you into a gas chamber that's you walk around different types of hallways, and but you're masked, so you don't know exactly where you are. But then when you get into the middle, the gas is going. They take your gas mask off, and you have to find your way out together. So you drag each other out. You're choking. You're coughing. You have to trust the person you're with that you're going to get out together. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, really cemented a bond. But it also realized that that's what way things get done, trusting each other to work together to get it accomplished, 100%. Get something accomplished.
No, I mean, you had that special relationship, and especially when you talk about, you're like a band of brothers. While you're not in the battlefield per se, you're definitely doing the drills. And it sounded like he had your back and you had his back, and that means a lot. So here you are. You guys are doing basic training. You're doing these drills together. You're coming together every 6 months, and you go on to this career where you go to Vegas and you're marketing. You told me about coming here to Phoenix, where you were recruited by Dial some 25, 30 years ago, and you were in the Wrigley Mansion that we were in last night together. And you lived this storied career, but something happened in 2009. You got to tell me, how did this transition happen? I mean, you came over to the home care side. I mean, you weren't here before. You emerged here in 2009, and I met you shortly thereafter. So I'd love for you to take me and our listeners through that reuniting with Mark BAYADA and coming to work for his organization.
Well, again, I want to stress that it's the importance of not only building a relationship or networking, because many of us do that. We meet people and then we don't ever continue to build that relationship. And I have always tried to maintain any relationship that I've developed, even the relationship I've had with you. We don't see each other that often, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. But every time we do, it's like we saw each other for dinner the night before.
Exactly. And you're always talking Yankees and I'm talking Orioles.
Right. So you try to maintain a relationship exactly. in a variety of different ways and keep active in what are their interests and what are your, and how can you continue that important the relationship that is going to be important to both of you. It's not just to you, but to both of you. And that's how Mark and I created this relationship, because we worked together at Avon, which was his very first job. He was in market research. When I got out of Wharton, which was about 6 months after him, he got me an interview and I got a job in product development, product marketing.
And you worked with all these ladies. I mean, you guys had to figure it out. I mean, and did you go into these ladies' homes too, David?
Oh, yeah, we did travel with
What a great job back in the 60s, right?
Well, the turnover rate, just like it is in home care, was huge.
Oh, bad.
Right. We used to joke that by the end of the century, which was now would be year 1999, every single woman in America would have been an Avon lady if the turnover rate continued.
And you know what, I'm going to say this disclaimer about half the people who are watching our podcast may not even know what Avon ladies are and may not know that people used to come to the homes to sell makeup exactly. and assorted items like that.
But we maintained a relationship. But Mark had, after 3 years, said, I'm done with corporate life. I want my own company. And he left to form RN Home Care. on the other hand, I stayed another 4 or 5 years at Avon, and I spent a lot of my time with them traveling overseas. I was responsible for their Pacific region, and then at one time the Latin American region. And so I did a lot of traveling, left there, and he had already left about three or 4 years and had started the company, which now become BAYADA Home Care. I went on to work for a pharmaceutical company, American Home Products, Whitehall Laboratories.
Oh, yeah.
And I was the area director in Germany and Switzerland for the Whitehall Laboratories, introduced Advil overseas, where they called it MUCH, M-U-C-H. So I moved over there to Switzerland for, I guess, about almost 9 months while I was...
See, I'm learning something new. I didn't know that. You lived in Switzerland. Wow.
But in the entire time, again, we continued to stay in touch with each other. And another interesting aspect of it is just about this time, Mark and his wife, Peggy, had a baby boy, David BAYADA. I came back to the United States and went to Philadelphia because at that time I was now living in New York. And I held David BAYADA in my arms. He was about maybe 4 weeks old.
Wow. And
today, or up until about 2 weeks ago, I was reporting to David BAYADA.
I know you were. It's amazing how life comes full circle. Mm-hmm. So going back to 2009 when you joined BAYADA, tell me how that all happened. You transitioned at the time. You were with Caesars. Were you finished with Caesars?
No, I had left Caesars and had joined a company called Rehab Care Group, which was a major provider of services, therapy services in skilled nursing facilities. And
right. So you came across to the care side. Okay, got it. I see. I did not even know that about you. How long were you doing that for?
I was there about 3 or 4 years. I was their head of marketing and communications. Mark reached out to me in 2009 and wanted to know if I would be interested in consulting to him because they were changing the brand. They had been known as BAYADA Nurses.
Right, I remember that.
The company had expanded to so much more than just nursing. And I told him that I was not able to do that if I was, I'm working full time. And I don't think that would provide enough time, and it might be a conflict. So in Mark's inimitable way, he said, okay, why don't you come and become my first chief marketing officer? And I thought, not long, but I thought that would be a great way to finish my career working for someone I've really respected and honored my entire life. Let's just end it by going to BAYADA. And so I did. I joined the company in June of 2009 as its first chief marketing officer. The reason why they had not had a chief marketing officer is because Mark BAYADA was trained in marketing, and he had really basically had that role for the entire first 35 years of the company.
Right.
Right. And so I took over that role, and we went through the conversion, the brand, the change, the new logo, the new identity. And about 6 months into that role, we were having dinner one night, and he said to me, we have done such a great job building relationships with our clients. These are our patients. We say our patients come first, our clients come first. But no one is building any relationships with our biggest client, the government. At the time, 70% of our business was coming from Medicare and Medicaid because they were paying us for those services. We were their client. And so he said, we need to be at the table because many of folks are making decisions every day about how we do our business, and we're not there. And at the time, really, no one else in the industry was there either.
No.
And so I said to him, I remember we were walking through the parking lot to go to dinner, and I said, hey, I think I could do that. It's just very much like building a brand, make sure your message is clear, concise, consistent, and make sure you have the facts, et cetera. And he said, great. Mark was just that way. If you want to run with it, let's run with it. So, and I had some experience at Rehab Care. I was not the Chief Government Affairs Officer, but I worked very closely with the Chief Government Affairs Officer. He and I would go to Washington together, and I was always like the backup, the number two. So we started back in 2010, and I had a dual role of both Chief Marketing Officer and Government Affairs. After about 4 years of doing both together, I realized not only that it was a very hefty haul to do that all the time, but also that there was so much more that we could do at government affairs if I concentrated on it entirely. So I gave up the CMO role.
First of all, I mean, the fact that Mark BAYADA, who was the founder and the chief marketing officer, gave that up to somebody is a big deal. I mean, because that he is the brand, that he created that, and the trust that he had in you to take that over. It's not something that is taken lightly. I mean, he really trusted you to do that. And I remember BAYADA nurses, so I love the branding and the way you reshaped that. But I love how you painted the story where you transitioned over to government relations and how important that is. And the advocacy work that you do is nothing short of amazing. It really is, because BAYADA's always been there in my mind since I've been working with you. Has always been the first to raise their hand, and they're usually the ones that are stepping up, and they're at the various state legislatures, and they are in Washington, D.C. So I do want you to share with us, that journey that you went on starting 2010 all the way up to 2025.
Well, I think
literally right at the end of the year.
I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said the trust that he had in what we were doing. I sometimes look back and think of the wonderful program that we've developed there over the last 15 years, but in the initial couple of years when you're building a program, you're not getting a lot of return initially because it takes some time to build relationships. He had the trust that it was going to work. I don't know if I had worked for almost anyone else that it would have lasted that long, but he believed in it, and that's so important. Leadership has to believe in it and understand that, like anything else, it's going to take some time to build relationships. So we started in 2010. I started with only a couple of people who I inherited within the company. We're doing community affairs work. And then we added a couple of folks for North Carolina, one of our major states, and then someone in D.C. But we focused primarily on direct lobbying, walking the halls, making sure we're building relationships. Today, we have a three-pronged approach to our advocacy program, and we think that each one of those, we call a three-legged stool, each one of those legs is equally important, and that if one of those legs isn't either funded appropriately or staffed appropriately, the whole stool could collapse. So direct lobbying is one. That's where folks walk the halls, meet with legislators, build those relationships. I'd say within about 3 or 4 years after we had started, we then said, we looked at each other and we said, wow, we've got our greatest asset is our own employee base. We have over 3,000 employees in at the time, maybe 300 offices. And those are voices that can be utilized, meeting with legislators directly in their home districts, where legislators most of the time, when they're there, have much more time than they do when they're in Washington. So we created the first ever, really, in the industry, what we call the ambassador program. We asked for one interested volunteer from every one of our offices. We designated them as an ambassador. They were our link to the government affairs team. We trained them every month. We made sure that they were very well versed in all the issues, the messaging that we needed to communicate to legislators, because we believe that when you get a crisis, you need to be able to act quickly. You can't you do not want a military that has to be trained when there is a crisis that starts. And so we train them every single month, even though We didn't put them out in the field initially, but we spent a lot of time making sure they got up to speed. So we developed one of the strongest grassroots programs. Today we have over 360 ambassadors, and they themselves have recruited within the company over 2,500 additional advocates.
Wow. You know, it's interesting. You said you had 3,000 employees across the country, but you were talking about people that are working in the offices and staff. If I recall correctly, you have close to 40,000 nurses and aides and people that are out there working and doing the hard work every day. Is that about right, 40,000?
About 35,000.
35,000. It's remarkable, the organization that Mark has built. And I really love the approach. I mean, you know, for our listeners that really understand this was an investment that Mark made into not only his company, but he made it into the industry. I mean, you know, advocacy is everything. And there really isn't an immediate ROI on advocacy. And I would love for you to talk about that, because when you look at business units, right, and you look at how they're deriving income and what those cost centers are, yours is purely cost, but you're having a much bigger impact. It's not one you can see on a balance sheet, one you can see in a P&L. Your efforts are more, you know, global, if you would. They're not something you can measure in a financial statement. Is that correct?
Well, we have, though,
Okay.
and because of exactly what you're referring to. When we first started, the first couple of years we were heavy investment, and there was very little return. But we were confident we were building important relationships. We started tracking every dollar spent and every incremental dollar achieved in about 2 or 3 years into our program. And so I have now data that shows for the last 14 years what we have been able to generate. And it shows very clearly that in the third year of our program, we generated an ROI of about 6 to 1.
Wow.
6 to 1. Now, Mark always wanted 10 to 1. So that was a good start, but it wasn't enough. But we realized that the more feet we put on the ground, the more voices that we had, the faster we achieved ROI, and also the greater the ROI. And our ROI, for example, during the COVID period, during that 2019 to, say, 2023 period, because so much money was on the table in Washington, but not everybody was ready to go and sit down and try to get it. Our ROI for those 3-4 years rose to 24 to 1.
Oh, I'll bet.
And overall, the entire 14-year period, our ROI today is at 14 to 1.
Wow.
And I had a CFO at the company, and I've never had a CFO say this at any time. I could not find a better place to invest my money than what we did with advocacy.
Well, it's so important to the work we do. And, you know, I commend you and BAYADA for really, you know, leading the way. It takes a lot of, you know, it takes a lot of courage. It really does. And as I mentioned, ROI can be, you know, certainly derived in many, many different ways. And I think a lot of people look at it, like you said, it took about 3 or 4 years to get the momentum going and really getting the relationships built. But not everybody's willing to make that investment. And I really think it speaks highly of Mark BAYADA and the culture that he's built. And maybe you can expand a little bit on that.
Well, the other thing that Mark did, too, is that he has a strong marketing background, right? So he understood the importance of building your brand and building awareness around your brand. And one of the things that we did is that third leg that I mentioned. There were 2 legs already that we had. One was the direct lobbying. The other was build a grassroots movement. Mm-hmm. But the third leg came about maybe 5 years ago, and that was right before COVID. And we realized, okay, so we're talking to our own folks. We're getting them involved. But how about the hundreds and thousands of people who are affected by the need for home care, right? People who are nurses in other organizations, people whose parents need home care, the general consumer, and they may not even be aware of what home care is at this time. Okay. So we became the first government affairs team to actually have its own PR and social media team embedded within government affairs. And that was our third leg. Last year, I have 3 people who are concentrated in working in that area. And we generated over 125 million impressions with our social media and PR efforts, building awareness not only of BAYADA, but building awareness of home care, the effectiveness of home care, the needs for home care, what our issues are. And that's why we then formed Hearts for Home Care, which is a separate social welfare organization of which I was serving as president. And we today have over 15,000 members in Hearts for Home Care in all 50 states of the country. BAYADA is only in 23 states. So that means there are members of Hearts for Home Care in 27 other states that we don't even have a presence, but we can go and mobilize them for any issue, whether it's a federal issue or a state issue.
You know, it was part of my script here to talk to you about Hearts for Home Care. So, I mean, that is amazing. And really, you've done that in a short time. I think it's, 2 years?
We formed in 23.
23, yeah. So, yeah, a little more than 2 years. You got 15,000 engaged in 50 states. Imagine what it's going to be like from there. So I want to wrap up a little bit of our conversation about BAYADA. And I would say that, you know, what or how has BAYADA shaped you as a leader and a person, this experience? Because, you know, we talked about it at the top of the show, you know, you wound down your career at the end of the year in 25, and you're now no longer with them. But I would love for you to share with us, the listeners and viewers, how that experience has shaped you as an individual and a leader. I mean, when you look back at those 16 years that you gave, you know, you're a different person today as a result of that.
Well, I'm glad you asked the question, because I want to say thank you, not only to BAYADA, but to the many, many folks like yourself who gave me a chance. I came into the industry not knowing what the alphabet soup all meant, you know, and I felt comfortable enough, and everyone made me feel comfortable enough to be able to ask those kinds of questions. What does this mean? Do you have a few minutes here or there to explain this to me? And everyone took that opportunity to build that relationship with me, as well as to provide me with input that I needed. I have so many mentors in the industry, not only Mark BAYADA, who is probably the number one, but they are from all across the country. And I remember calling you many times, or sitting next to you at a board meeting, you know, I have no idea what they're talking about, but can you explain that to me? Because I came out of a different kind of industry. And every industry is complex, but it's important for you to be able to take your time to understand what you're doing, because there are so many things that interrelate that you can take from other industries, as long as you can understand what the issue is all about. And you know, healthcare's got every kind of acronym possible.
It does,
right?
It does. So, and also winding down BAYADA, or your experience and time there, what would you say you're most proud of? If you had to sit back and say, you know what, I look back at those 16 years, I'm most proud of.
Two things. Building Hearts for Home Care, which is a national network of advocates. We're at 15,000 after about 3 years, since 2023. Our goal was to be a network of over 100,000 in 5 years. I don't know if we'll get to the 100,000, but we're going to get pretty close to 100,000 maybe by the end of the decade. The second thing I am very proud of is that the National Alliance for Care at Home, at its annual meeting this year, gave me its first Lifetime Achievement Award. And to me, you know, when you're at the end of near the end of your career, to someone to say, "Well done, Dave," means more to me than anything.
Well, I love that. Are you going to stay involved in Hearts for Home Care?
I said to them when I stepped down, that, and they, by the way, gave me the first ever Hearts for Home Care Lifetime Achievement Award as well. But
and I would imagine it'll probably be named for you going forward.
Well,
I'm sure it will be.
But I told them that while I was not going to be active, active in terms of being on the board or any official position, I would definitely be their biggest supporter.
Well, this chapter is closed. Your story still goes on. I would love for you to share with me and our listeners. There's this Liberty Partners group that you're part of, and then you told me about Care Easy. So, I would love for you to take us where you're going now. And when you announced that you were retiring, I knew, and I sent a message, I think it was on your LinkedIn, oh, what are you doing next? Because I knew you wouldn't be on the sidelines very long. And you popped up with Liberty Partners Group, and I learned earlier today that you're doing some work with Jennifer Sheets, and would love to hear what you're doing.
Well, I decided back in July of last year that 2026 and 2027 particularly are going to be very important years for Medicare and Medicaid, and that maybe I could utilize what I've achieved and the relationships that I've built to help others in the industry more so than if I remained at BAYADA. And then I also recognized that my team was strong enough and ready for a transition, which was going to occur anyway, probably in a couple of years. So I initiated conversations with Mark and David, and we've agreed that if you could stay till the end of the year, we would love that, and we will support you in whatever you want to do going forward. And so I have joined Liberty Partners Group, which is a DC-based public affairs firm with as a principal. And some of my partners are former Senator Debbie Stabenow, Dan Coates from Indiana.
Andrew Woods.
Andrew Woods is the chairman.
Yeah.
Martin O'Malley just joined just recently.
The former governor of Maryland?
Correct.
I mean, really, this is an all-star group you're part of. Wow.
And I had been a client twice of Liberty Partners Groups. Once when I was the chair of the Medicaid Partnership, we utilized them as our representation in Washington, and then just recently with BAYADA as well. And so Andrew Woods had approached me and asked if I would be interested. And I thought, wow, well, that would be great. But I also indicated to him that I wanted to do some consulting with others who are building advocacy groups, or even using my marketing background. And that's why, if you all remember Jennifer Sheets, who is now is building a platform called Care Easy, which is a AI enhanced platform that matches available caregivers and patients who need intermittent care, something like an Uber driven app for caregiving. She's already rolled it out in 15 states. She's ready to go to the next level, and has asked me to spend some time consulting on the marketing side of the business. So I'll be doing that, and I've got a few other clients that I've lined up on under my own LLC.
For me, real easy to see how you went over to Liberty. Just makes a lot of sense. I mean, you catch this bug because you think about your origins in 2010 when you and Mark had the conversation about your biggest customer being the government. Mm-hmm. And you've been infiltrated into our government for the last 15 years. You know people, relationships are everything. Advocacy is hard work. But the old adage is, if you don't have a seat at the table, you might find yourself on the menu, and you get that. And as you said, Medicare and Medicaid, really, really forefront right now. We know about H.R. 1, the BBB, as I like to call it, the big, beautiful bill, and the fact that they're going to cut $1 trillion out of the Medicaid budget over the next 7 years is a big deal. So I love that you still have your voice out there, and you still have your army out there. You still have the relationships. And you mentioned it at the really beginning. I mean, it's all about relationships. Your relationship being number 18 and Mark being number 19 it's emblematic of that. It's all about those contacts. And part of me today, and I love that you're doing this with Jennifer, because, you and I can have a whole another podcast about it, but, home care is about relationships too. And, when a consumer opens up their home to a caregiver, they open up their life to them. And that's really, really important. So I love that you're still doing the relationship piece. You get it. You and I are really, people of the same cloth, so to speak, because I'm a marketer. I came up through the consumer product goods world. I think it's pretty much why I was attracted to you, and vice versa, because we think the same. Mm-hmm. And I love what you're doing. And, I want to close our session here today and throw out some rapid fire questions to you. And, they're always fun because it gives me an opportunity to really help me and our listeners get to better know you. So it doesn't have to be one word answers. If you want to expand upon it, that's fine. But I want to throw a few of them out at you. Well, I already know the first one. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
It's coffee for sure. Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Vegas or the East Coast?
Oh. East Coast.
East Coast. Well, you had to think about that. Yeah. You might have to talk to Amanda about that. You talked about Scottsdale too. So one word your twin would describe you, used to describe you.
Compassionate.
Most influential person you've ever worked with?
Mark BAYADA.
No surprise there. You passed the test. Best advice you ever received?
Progress was never made with silence, from my dad.
I love that. Progress has never been made with silence. Very good. One habit you can swear by.
Reliability. You could, and I just want to expand on that just a little bit. Is that I am accessible almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, you can if you're going to try to get in touch with me, and you're going to get a response very, very quickly. You're not going to wait 2-3 days or even 2 or 3 hours. And I've always found that important, even if it's just to say, I have it, I'm working on it.
You don't know how much that means to me, Dave. Seriously, so many people don't practice that. And I can vouch for you because you have always been incredibly responsive to me. So thank you for that trait that you have. A place that brings you instant calm.
Anywhere with a beach and palm trees. Unfortunately, I don't get there very often, but.
Something that you're still curious about.
Life after death.
Fair enough. And at this stage of my life, I am focused on, complete that sentence for me.
Enjoying every single day.
Love that. So, a couple closing questions. When you look back across all your chapters, what stands out most?
The variety of things that I've done. I got an MBA in Wharton in marketing, and for most folks who would get a degree from that kind of school would think that you'd spend your entire career building a marketing career within a certain industry. But I've not only had a marketing career and a government relations career, but and now like maybe a lobbying career in a variety of different industries, from cosmetics to financial services to healthcare, and it indicates that you don't have to. And I say this to so many young folks. You don't have to feel that you have to make a decision about what you want to do so early in your life. Just let the opportunities be presented to you and take advantage of them as they come.
Variety is the spice of life, right? There you go. You have had lots of variety. So if I had to ask you this last question, what are you most grateful for now?
The opportunity to be able to do what I have achieved. Many folks have the same skills, the same interest, but maybe are not presented with those opportunities. And it was through the relationships that I've built that those opportunities have come and manifested themselves to me. So I'm very grateful that not only did I have the skill to be able to do a variety of different things, but I also had the opportunity. So,
are there any questions I have not asked or any lasting thoughts you want to leave me or our listeners as we get ready to close the show?
Well, just that our work is not done. I have been extremely pleased by how much the industry, our home care industry, has embraced the need for advocacy. Even today, while we're here at Home Care 100, is going to be the focus of an afternoon session because the next several years are going to be very, very important. When I started in the industry in 2009, at the time, Bill Dombey and Val Halamandaris invited those who had government affairs heads to come to Washington. There were 3 or 4 of us who attended a meeting. Last year, they did a similar exercise in Washington, and not only did about 30 agencies send folks, but most of them came with their CEOs. So it's been a significant increase in interest.
Well, and a lot of it is a credit to you and to Mark BAYADA and the BAYADA organization.
Thank you.
Dave Totaro, I've enjoyed our professional relationship, but even better than that, I've enjoyed our personal relationship. And I hope our paths will stay connected and we can continue to have some of the dialogue we have, whether it be about baseball or some crazy number like 45, 47 or 6'7", whatever those numbers are.
Right. And that's what I've always enjoyed about you too, Bob, because you and I will admit we don't see eye to eye on some things.
Right.
But we can discuss them rationally and understand the perspective that each of us bring to that discussion. And the next day we'll go out and sit down and have coffee together.
It's what I call respect. And Dave Totaro, I have immense respect for you. And I'm so excited for you and your next part of your journey. And thank you, listeners and viewers, for joining us with Health Futures. Dave Totaro, thank you for being our guest. We're going to be back next week. Thank you once again.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com.